Welcome to LA. Noah's Learning Atmosphere. We're going to walk through how to create an HTML button, also include Style Use CSS, the full name is Cascading Style Sheet, and enhance it using animation and keyframes. We'll break everything down into small, easy to understand concepts so you can clearly follow how each part works together. Let's begin with the foundation, the HTML button. First concept, the HTML button element. In HTML, a button is created using the button tag. This element represents a clickable interface control. It can contain text, icons, or even other inline elements. By default, browsers apply basic styling, but it's usually plain and varies across browsers. That's why we use CSS to take control of its appearance. Think of HTML as the structure. It defines what the element is. In this case, we're defining an interactive button. Second concept, connecting CSS to style the button. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS controls how HTML elements look. To style a button, we target the button element using a selector. A selector tells CSS which HTML element to apply styles to. We can target the button by its tag name, class, or ID. Using a class is usually best practice because it allows us to reuse the style across multiple buttons. Now let's talk about basic styling properties. Third concept, visual styling properties. We use properties like background color to change the button's fill color. The color property changes the text color. Padding creates space inside the button between the text and its border. Border removes or customizes the outline. Border radius makes the corners rounded. Font size adjusts text size. Cursor set to pointer changes the mouse icon when hovering, signaling interactivity. These properties together transform a default browser button into a modern UI element. Fourth concept, hover effects. To make the button interactive, we use a pseudo-class called hover. A pseudo-class defines a special state of an element. Hover applies styles when the mouse pointer is placed over the button. For example, we might change the background color slightly when hovering. This provides visual feedback to the user. We can also add transitions to make the change smooth instead of instant. Fifth concept, CSS transitions. A transition allows property changes to happen gradually over a specified duration. Instead of snapping instantly from one color to another, the button smoothly animates between states. The transition property defines what property should animate, how long it should take, and what timing function to use. Timing functions like ease or linear control the speed curve of the animation. Transitions are great for simple state changes like hover effects. Now let's move to something more powerful. Sixth concept, CSS animations and keyframes. Animations allow us to create more complex motion effects. Unlike transitions, animations can run automatically without user interaction. To create an animation in CSS, we use the @keyframes rule. Keyframes define how an element should look at specific points during the animation. For example, at 0%, the button might be slightly smaller. At 50%, it might grow larger. At 100%, it returns to normal size. This creates a pulsing effect. Each percentage represents a stage in the animation timeline. The browser automatically fills in the in-between frames, creating smooth motion. Seventh concept, applying the animation to the button. After defining keyframes, we apply the animation to the button using animation properties. We specify the animation name, which matches the keyframe's name, the duration, which defines how long one cycle lasts, the iteration count, which determines how many times it repeats, and optionally the timing function. For example, setting iteration count to infinite makes the animation loop continuously. This allows us to create effects like glowing, pulsing, bouncing, or sliding buttons. Eighth concept, combining hover and animation. We can also trigger animations only when hovering. Instead of running constantly, the animation starts when the user moves the mouse over the button. This is done by placing the animation property inside the hover pseudo-class. That way, the motion becomes interactive rather than automatic. Ninth concept, performance and best practices. When animating elements, it's best to animate properties like transform and opacity. These are optimized by browsers for smoother performance. For example, scaling the button using transform scale is more efficient than changing width and height. Also, keep animations subtle. Overuse can distract users rather than enhance experience. 10th concept, putting it all together. So to recap, HTML creates the button structure. CSS styles its appearance. Hover adds interaction. Transition smooths property changes.
Keyframe de fine animation stage.
Animation properties control timing and repetition. When combined, these tools allow you to create visually engaging and interactive buttons that enhance user experience. And that's it. You now understand how to build an HTML button, style it with CSS, and animate it using keyframes, all broken down into clear, manageable concepts. Keep experimenting with different colors, transforms, and timing values to discover unique button effects. Thanks for listening.